Hello folks and welcome to today's Our Game Show. Myself, James Stapleton. As always, Michael Verney is here beside me. Michael, big weekend at GA coming again. Lots to talk about.
Massive weekend. I'm actually back in the home of hurling here at the minute in my good old museum bedroom here back in Borough. I was back doing a bit of farming this morning and I'm broke up, I won't lie. The greatest cardio workout you will ever get is forking.
What sort of farming work were you doing today?
I was just forking 𝘧𝘳𝘁𝘲 into trailers and pushing 𝘧𝘳𝘁𝘲 into slats with a great old workout. Yeah, I've changed my clothes twice already today.
Do you think you farmers are underappreciated?
Oh God, yeah. Should like the hurling man. Underappreciated is right, yeah. I don't know about underappreciated. But it's like for lads that do it, it's a great lifestyle. It's like lads that work with horses. You're never going to be a millionaire, definitely not, despite what people will tell you. It's a bit of a labor of love. But geez, it's a great lifestyle to be outside every day. I know it's miserable sometimes, but it is nice to be going outside, and there's something therapeutic about. I don't know. There's something therapeutic about meeting animals that don't talk back to you, and you can. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know if I said it to you before, but I remember being down with Aidan O'Brien before, and he said they'd be coming into work at like 6, half 6. You'd have work riders coming in, and he said you'd have people that would come into the yard that would not say hello to other humans, and the second they see a horse, they'd just be all over them. And it's like, I don't know, there's a weird kind of therapy to it, and I'd say a lot of people get that with cattle and sheep and pigs or whatever it is. It's just cattle in our case here. But
are you a cattle whisperer?
No, definitely not. But you do get, obviously, from years of getting them in and stuff like that, you probably would have a bit of an knack to you. Whereas, you know, an alien dropped into a field on a day would not know what to do. Like, you have to be very softly at times. Then, of course, there's times when you probably have to lose the rag a small bit. But if you lose the rag this time, and just say you start going wielding a stick and you're shouting and roaring, you'll feel the effects of that the next time when they're impossible to get in. So you have to play clever. You have to play the long game.
And can you sort of give the carrot as well as the stick? Like, is there a sort of a way to plamass a cow?
Well, we do a bit with meal actually, where you'd have an old bucket of meal and you'd be calling them in. Or, no, the best one is like a bag of, say, empty 𝘱𝘵𝘂𝑚𝘚s or whatever it is, meal. But the bag is empty, but you're just shaking the bag and there's nothing in the bag. But they think there's something in the bag. So it's probably...
you're making a clown out of the cow.
It's probably a bit mean now, to be fair.
Would you even give him anything at the end of it? Just a little taste?
No, treat him mean, keep him keen.
you really are that miserable cornerback.
No, you would sometimes. Or you'd scatter. If you were trying to get them into a crush, you might scatter a bit of meal in the crush and they'd all come in, or the vast majority will come in. If you have the majority, you're in business. There's always going to be a couple of wild ones, just like in life in general. But if you have the majority, the others, the silent minority will usually follow.
And like, have you ever tried to explain to, let's say, an urban person what the crush is?
No, I wouldn't even try. It's funny, like there's vernacular that you just use that you've been hearing for years, like a cowhouse or whatever it is, or, you know, a 𝘧𝘶𝘢𝘁 is what we use to scrape the shed, which probably no one has ever heard of, but that's what we call it. It's a yard scraper, basically. No, a crush. Any of those urbanites that are out there, a crush is basically, it's like a corral that you use. It's a way of getting in the cattle and organising them. And within the crush, there's usually a part of the crush where you can line them up maybe and kind of enclose them a bit tighter to inject them or dose them or whatever.
And you know, like it's a far cry from the latte that the boys are getting up here in Dublin at the far end of it. What GWF below.
Eddie Brennan mightn't thank me for this, but I remember him saying one time when he was in the dressing room in Coola, he heard the boys talking about Bitcoin, and he was like, "This is not Greg Ballycallan. I'm far from Greg Ballycallan now."
Oh, sure. Look, I remember going down to Owlert once. This would have been the early days. We had a challenge match down there, and you know we were arriving in for the match, and one of our lads arrived in with a mocha. And I'm thinking, we're about to play a match here and you've got a mocha under the arm. But look,
imagine, like, Jesus, down the country, you'd be absolutely ran out of the place. A good question in here from Traumspieler. He just says, Verney, critical question here. What's your go-to call for the cattle? Would you be a hup kind of farmer, or would it be a whistle to gain their attention? My mother can actually do that thing with her hands like that with a piece of grass that does, usually, it mightn't bring them in, but it will get them closer. I'm more of a
We need to cut that clip out and share it on social media. That'll go well. Look, there's so much coming on the show. As always, we're going to be previewing all the big club action, and there's some brilliant stuff coming this weekend. We're also going to have Eoin Cody on the show live. So if you have any questions, get them in. Same with Seán Cavanagh. He's going to be on the show as well. So really looking forward to chatting to the two of them. But before we get into the club stuff, Cork GA, they're talking about a motion that enables a player to line out at under 20 and senior inter-county games in the space of 3 days. Now, I think that's probably fair enough, because we're seeing a lot of situations like Limerick and maybe Cork in the last couple of years, maybe even Galway and Wexford a couple of times as well. Remember the likes of Oisin Pepper and maybe is it Gavin Lee and different players like that. It sort of makes sense, and even I suppose within club as well, would there be too much of an issue with that as well?
No, like I think like we played Galway in the under 20 with Offaly last year, and they were missing a couple of players. Can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head. He'd come on against Kilkenny in the last maybe 4 or 5 minutes. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but like it's and obviously the Cottle O'Neill case the year before. Owen Downey only played the All-Ireland final last year. Adam Hogan didn't play the Munster final. There's been so many different players down to the last couple of years that have missed these big games. I think 3 days would be. Yeah, 3 days is very reasonable. I think as long as it's not Saturday and Sunday or something like that. Even, do you know what? Sometimes even if it is Saturday and Sunday and you're coming on for 15 minutes at the end of a senior game, would you be fit to go and play an under-20 game the next day? 100% you would. Now, what you don't want is that happening the whole time. But as an outlier, Liam Collins was the last name. Thanks, Craig. Yeah. It's as long as that's not happening the whole time, you're all good. But like Henry said about Liam Collins, even at the time, I remember him saying, like, the best thing in the world for him would have been to go and play a game the next day or whatever it was. I think it was Offaly actually played Galway on the Saturday and Kilkenny played Galway on the Sunday. But would it have done him a bit of harm to play a game on the Saturday and potentially come on for 10 minutes at the end of the game on Sunday? Probably not.
No, okay. The trouble is always just the odd team or manager who abuses it, or collection of managers who's over to one player and end up flogging. And I do kind of worry about underage players at this time of year, lads who are 18, 19, 20, who are being dragged from Billy to Jack, whether they're on development panels, whether they're doing freshers or fits, plus their club under 20, plus maybe dual codes. So there's a lot of players at the moment who are getting flogged right now when it's supposed to be kind of more downtime than anything. Yeah,
and even that, like, it's... I don't know, you go to college and you're a fresher in college or whatever. Like, to me, I don't know. It's about really enjoying your time down there, really, that year. And geez, it definitely wouldn't be. You don't want lads making honestly, I wouldn't want lads making sacrifices at 18 or 19. That type of sacrifice. You want them to enjoy their life. I remember chatting to Billy Lee when he was Limerick manager, and there was a lot of lads that were freshers in college that he just didn't have in. He just it's kind of said, listen, lads, like, it's going to be difficult for you to commit whatever and coming back from college, and maybe some lads aren't driving. He said, I'd prefer if you just enjoyed a year or two in college and played good level of club football, did your gym programs or whatever. But he actually valued the part of like enjoying your kind of life and not being burnt out when you're 23 or 24, which happens a lot of the time. It's not necessarily physical burnout, it's more mental burnout, and lads get peeved at continuously having to make kind of sacrifices, or what, in inverted commas or whatever. I just think lads should be able to enjoy themselves, and ladies to a certain extent, particularly in those early years of college, which you and I both know, like, they're the best years. They're the most innocent years of your life, really. You're not really working. You're in college. You're maybe living off 20 or 30 euro for a week. you're having an old sneaky bet here and there, and if it gets up, you're dining out in Finnegan's like we used to be doing down in Limerick. Like, but they are very innocent times, like, and you don't want to take them away from people.
And then going home to muck out the sheds then at the weekend.
To get abuse, then you're going home getting no money and just getting abuse.
And so, look, I feel there's a real wave of momentum behind stopping that proposal, looking to basically remove the league from, 5 teams that don't have enough adult hurling teams, according to people who basically want to push this motion. It looks like it's going to be withdrawn or rejected next week. And Ulcan Conway, the Leitrim manager, came out with a very strong statement this week. He's obviously, like his players, has taken this very much to heart, and rightly so. But it does feel like with Fermanagh coming out with a statement, with Louth coming out with a statement, and so on and so forth, it does really feel like this is going to be nipped in the bud.
Yeah, Martin Fogarty had penned a column in our paper today. Very honest, and I'd say it would resonate with a lot of people. You'll find that even through my Twitter there. Very, just real good, real detailed. He's seen it all, as we know from being on the show kind of 2 weeks ago. But if the only thing this does is kind of push hurling in with what we'd say in these kind of weaker areas or less kind of privileged areas, shall we say, as regards hurling, if the only thing that does is bring it front and centre, that's a good thing. But what's the next step then? So if it doesn't happen, we now realize, like, did everybody know, unless you were living in those counties, did they know the actual plight of a Leitrim hurler with 2 senior clubs, or Fermanagh with 1 senior club? Probably not. Everybody knows now. Now it's, how do we get, and Martin actually sent me on a really interesting graphic of how many clubs, hurling clubs, there were in Fermanagh. And you're looking at, like, it's gone 8, 9, 10 down to 1. So, like, it was there. So there's a bit of light there. So can we get that kind of light shining back again? And that's what needs to happen, basically. Everybody knows of the plight of these counties now. How can we get more clubs going? How can we get more coaches within those kind of counties? And how can we how can we get them somewhat on par with some of the stronger counties?
Lee Keegan was saying this week he thinks it's time to abolish the GAA pre-seasons. Can you come up with a good reason not to? Not
particularly.
It's about funny, like, isn't it? It's about,
yeah. Like I don't see it really about provincial councils. Maybe like they totally take in a decent bit, because there's around Christmas time or just after Christmas, people just want to get out and go to a match. A lot of time you'd have a couple of like McKenna Cup matches could have 7,000 or 8,000 that we've seen down through the years. Even some O'Byrne Cup games, particularly if the Dubs are playing. Some Walsh Cup games, particularly if Kilkenny are playing. Some Munster
Wexford had like 12,000 in Enniscorthy last year.
Yeah, under lights. Yeah, no, it was in Wexford Park when they turned on the lights. Actually,
okay.
Yeah, same.
It was Enniscorthy the year before, and there was about 12,000.
Yeah, no, there was a big crowd there. But like those same crowds are going to go to league games, like without a doubt. The competitions don't mean anything, and this is the problem, is that when you fix a fixture, you have to fulfill the fixture generally. Obviously, we saw last year there was some more O'Byrne Cup games that were, given as walkovers or whatever. But that makes it difficult. Like if you're playing 3 O'Byrne Cup games in 7 days, and there's lads in college training for Sigerson or playing a Sigerson group game or something like that, that makes it very, very tricky. So I really don't see the benefit of them. If John Kiley wants to play a game, he'll play an in-house game, or he'll go and organise a challenge game. And every other manager would be the exact same. And it's a bit more controlled, and they can do as suits them. They don't have it fixed for Sunday, then we're playing Wednesday, then we're playing next Saturday. I think it affords them a bit more opportunity to train as they see fit, and then play games as they want to play games.
So PWell74 is saying, what do you think of Pat Spillane's support for this proposal? Was he talking for the football people, or was he just being himself? Now, this is back to the thing about getting rid of basically, counties with fewer than 5 adult teams. And he was saying in his column, the weaker counties are up in arm, but in this case, the GAA might have a point. Recently, a member of Waterford GAA board told me that it cost their board 400 grand to run their senior football team, though realistically, their chances of making any meaningful progress are slim. He made the point that Waterford's next door neighbours, Kilkenny, don't field a football team, and nobody in the GAA bats an eyelid. But the money they save can be invested in hurling. And he also said the harsh reality is that fielding senior county teams in hurling is nothing more than a paper-ticking exercise in many counties. Worse still, it's wasting scarce resources. Frankly, it's unsustainable. The future of hurling in weaker counties lies in investing in coaching at underage level, not in wasting money by fielding a senior inter-county team. I mean, like, there's part of it that makes a point, but like to some degree, yeah, I get it. But getting rid of the flagship team, the thing for someone to aim for, that's not the thing.
But sure, like if you get rid of the flagship team, like what's there to aim for? And like, well, a lot, like, you know what I mean? You need an end goal. You want to play for your county, whether that's be a Cavan hurler, a Limerick hurler, or a Dublin footballer. That's what young people aim for. Like Pat, I have to say now, Pat's always controversial, in fairness to him, but he gets his kind of points across very well. Now he was chatting to someone in Waterford who said that it cost 400,000. I wonder, does it actually cost 400,000, or is that I was just talking to somebody? But he's that wouldn't be the first or last time he's kind of done something like that. He makes some kind of meaningful points, but like
Ulcan Conway was talking about the times that they had to go and play in England, that they got grants, so it wasn't really costing the county board. Like, whatever it costs Waterford to prepare their football team, and I don't know, there's no way that Leitrim hurling is costing 400 grand to their county board.
No, I think the figure that they had said was in around 200, but actual cost was somewhere around 60 or 70,000. That was some of the figures that I saw anyway. And just on the Kilkenny football, and Martin did say this last week, you can say they play no football in Kilkenny, and they obviously don't play senior football. They do play that. They play that junior kind of All Ireland that's played on over the weekend. They play. They have representatives at senior, intermediate, and junior level in the Leinster Club Football Championship, and most clubs do actually play football championship at 13, 15, and 17. What level that's played to, I'm not sure, but they are actually playing it. Like if you get rid of league hurling for those 5 counties, that's the next step is another 3 or 4 potentially fall into that bracket. Then you have maybe 7 or 8 counties not playing any league hurling. Then the next thing is they're not going to be playing championship hurling, and that's just once you start that, the rot would set in, and a lot of lads will see. I just think they'll start losing. They have minimal numbers as it is. You'd start losing lads. You'd be thinking, am I going to commit to 3 months like just to play a championship? Like, why are we being treated differently as county players? And yeah, I just, yeah, listen, Pat always, to put it this way, if the wind is blowing one day, and he said it about Joe Brawley, he said if the wind is blowing one way, he'll blow the other way. But he's basically going against the majority because he knows it will annoy people somewhat or cause debate. And has he caused debate? Yeah, he has, in fairness to him.
Yeah, Adrian McGrath, can we get some verification of these numbers that are being bandied about by people trying to push this SH1T? 400k is BS. But yeah, I mean, that's a very difficult thing to get in GA. Sometimes you get accounts, but you don't get them itemized, so you don't know necessarily where different funds are going. And at times, and I'm not talking about this case, it can feel very shady.
Yeah, no, Asher, listen, like Ulcan Conway's comments are in stark contrast to his county board treasurer's comments, and I chatting different people on the ground in Leitrim over the last couple of days, and I definitely be leaning towards Ulcan Conway's comments more so, being honest with you. But like, they didn't even have access to the centre of excellence a lot of the time, and that's the case in a lot of the counties up there. So a lot of people at county board level cannot say that they're treating both codes equally, because the facts of the matter, and read Ulcan Conway's statement, and you will see the facts are is that they're been treated anything but the same as football has been treated in that county, and that's the same in many other counties.
I noticed Stephen O'Keefe, Ballygunner keeper, former Waterford keeper, saying that you try and build a career for yourself. You have a young family at home. There's only 24 hours in a day, but the amount of stuff you have to fit into that 24 hours seem to go up and up. I think you're seeing it more and more now. The majority of county players aren't going too far past 31, 32 these days. I think it's a lifestyle change at the moment. I'm not sure if I see that changing. And I wonder, like, is it a matter of course that lads are more or less going to be dropped anyway at that age? Because can they do the same level of preparation as a lad who's 22, 23, 24? And at a certain point, do you kind of slow down a little bit at that age? Like we see a professional sports players' careers are probably being extended, whereas maybe it's going slightly the opposite way at county.
I've a small issue with this in the sense that I don't think they need to be able to do the same training. I think that's a thing we have in our heads. I think lads are treated differently at club level, and rightfully so. Some of the best club hurlers in the country at the minute are well into their 30s, are they not? At county level, can lads still thrive at? Or TJ got, what did TJ win Ulster at 36? He was given it on the day of his birthday. Like, he's still up. It's not proven problematic to him. Give me some other ones. Patrick Horgan at 34. Canlan only retired this year. I do think they need to be treated a small bit different. I don't think it's a one for all job where, unfortunately, in some cases it is, where you have to be able to do everything that everyone else is doing. But I don't think that's the case. That's not the case in work life. It's not the case in a lot of aspects of life. Like if you know that the 33 or 34-year-old is going to be as good, if not better, than the 23-year-old on the day of the match when it really matters. Like, is it okay? Surely it's okay for him to skip a session or for him to be doing something else. I definitely think it is if it's explained correctly to the panel and everybody knows that and everybody values, if I value your input, you value my input, even though you do different things than I do or whatever, and the 23-year-old values both our inputs and realizes my body, I can do more. I think it's probably something that needs to be explained fairly well, but Stephen O'Keefe is probably right. It's funny, we've probably talked on the show about how S&C mean you can probably play for longer and train for lengthen your career out, but then other things obviously get in the way. Relationships, college, Erasmuses, whatever it is, working abroad. More and more people are working abroad now as well. Obviously kids and stuff as well get in the way too, to some extent, definitely get in the way of an inter-county career anyway. But I don't know, what do you think yourself? Like, I think there's a bit of give and take with lads in their early 30s. I think you have to be smart with them. I don't think they can do the same amount as lads 10 years younger, and I don't think they should have to either.
Yeah, I'd say someone who isn't going to get meaningful game time, once they hit their 30s and they have other stuff going on, they're probably just going to opt out anyway, unless there are special circumstances for them. Yeah, like if you're training 3 nights a week and doing gym a couple of nights a week as well, which you probably are, like teams are meeting probably collectively 5 times anyway. I'm sure you can afford a situation where they can do their gym stuff on their own, which maybe it won't be as much heavy work, maybe a lot of it will be more stretch and recovery, maybe a little bit less time showing up on the pitch as well. Yeah, I think once you get that age, with the amount of training you've done, and as long as you're doing enough in the off-season to keep the body right and taking over, surely there is a case of just working on maintenance and keeping yourself fresh. But like, you are balancing that up with, will you have the same explosive power? Will your nous and experience get you by in these games, or will you be somewhat physically passed by? Like, it's a tough balance.
Yeah, no, and it is a balance. And I've often said it's like a bit of a seesaw when you get to that 34 or 35. You could be nominated for Hurler of the Year like TJ was in 22 and an All-Star this year, but very quickly it can kind of go the other way. Because chatting a Cork fella, I can't even remember who it was, a couple of days ago anyway, and he just said he was worried that the Hoggy potentially might have stayed on a bit, that 2024 might be a bridge too far for him, just based on the form of 2023. Based on the evidence we saw in 23, I probably wouldn't agree, but it is a bit of a seesaw. You can go, like, it is, you're on a tightrope there.
Like, because consistent, like, there was times when he did brilliant stuff, and there was other games where it did look a little bit of a bridge too far. But like, I'd still have him there without doubt. But starting every single game at 34, sometimes when you're playing 2 games in the space of 8 days, I can't remember what way it's panning out for Cork next year. But like, that is incredibly tough to play 70, probably 80 minutes at that pace, with that physicality. That's tough going. Adrian McGrath,
it's not simple. Yeah, he just said Brian Lohan is miles ahead in the area of staggered training. Like, I remember meeting Shane O'Donnell in service station on the way back from their game against Wexford in the league this year, and he was down at the game, like, and had the gear on and everything, but he wasn't back training or anything, and he's based in Dublin or whatever. And I think Lohan knows that, like, if I have him back, and like, I don't know what, if I have him back in the pitch 6 weeks before the championship starts, that's probably fine. I think John Conlon, might have been his first game starting. Could be wrong. I think, like, the older lads were all staggered back, and I think that's the right way to do it. As long as you explain that to younger members, and like, I probably wouldn't have got it when I was a young fella. If it was explained to me, I probably would get it. And when you have a child now, you totally get it. It's like, leave this fella off for a while and let him spend some time at home, because he's going to be away for long enough, and you just need to have him right at this time. But I don't know if that's the case in a lot of counties, if it's staggered like that.
Yeah, and like, I look at Tipperary, for example, next year, and assuming that Noel McGrath and Bonner Maher and maybe 1 or 2 more experienced players, if they're involved, is there any need for them to be playing any matches this side of March, for example? Now, maybe there is, and maybe they want to play them themselves, but if you want them fresh and hopping off the sod and ready for action come summertime, do you want them playing that much in March or whatever? just go through maintenance and building up the body for a few months, and then like back training for a month, you would presume they'd be flying.
Yeah, I think when you get to a certain age, you only have a certain amount of games in you in a year, and I think you need to pick those battles really fairly well, unless your body is kind of programmed a bit differently and you're just able to go through it like the certain lads can. Noel McGrath probably wouldn't knock a funk out of him to play the Munster co-op games and then stay playing the whole way through. But different bodies are kind of different, and you have to treat lads. Everyone's on an. I think I know it's a squad, but I think you have to treat lads on an individual basis. I honestly do, and I don't think you can treat everybody the same. I've seen it in club setups. Yeah, certain lads you have to give a little bit more rope to as well, and that's just the nature of it. As long as it's kind of explained to everybody, I think it works out okay.
How many games there was it? David Clifford had something like 57 games played in the last year and a half, or so. I might have to double check it. I think it was Conor McKeown had the piece on it, and you just wonder how sustainable is that over a longer period of time, and then even broaden that out to how often it's said about, do you know your man Bakary Saka that plays with Arsenal, that he's just constantly played. He's never brought off for friendlies or anything like that. That he's always flogged, and then eventually you're going to get injuries surely. And is that going to be the same for Clifford? Yeah, I'm looking at Conor McKeown's tweet here. In the 57 games for Kerry, East Kerry, Fossa and UL since the beginning of 22, David Clifford has scored 29 goals and 305 points, 24, 178 from play. But that is some ridiculous amount of games to play in that period of time. 57
games over a period of, what are we looking, about 700 days, a little under 700 days probably?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound as bad like that, but a lot, like it was week on week on week
on
week.
Bukayo Saka, yeah, to be right. Yeah. John Bolt is it's Bakary Saka.
It probably doesn't sound that bad when you put it like that, but the question you have to wonder is, like, Clifford is only 24. Where's the kind of opportunity for the S&C development, shall we say, for him now? Like, you don't get much time, and games do take it out of you. Like, there's not much you can do for a couple of days after. You're basically recovering, and a lot of the time, I'd say over the last 2 years, Clifford has just been recovering and going from kind of one game to the next, and you don't really grow and develop when you're doing that. So it, like, at least the UL thing has gone out of the equation. You're not going to be playing Sigerson anymore. It probably would have been better off for him if East Kerry was gone out of the equation and Fossa were playing senior, maybe potentially too. And you'll get away with that at his age at the minute. When you get towards 29, 30, 31, you're really picking and choosing your battles. You see that a lot with a lot of lads that play dual at club. You get away with it to a point, and then you just cannot play games week on week. When you're younger, you get away with it, but when you get to a certain age, you just can't.
I'd just be curious to ask the viewers here, who do you think is more likely to start for the county next year in terms of the experienced players, TJ Reid or Patrick Horgan?
TJ Reid will definitely start for Kilkenny next year. I don't even think there's any debate. There's probably a bit of debate about whether Hoggy would start, but if you're looking at who's their best player in 2023, he probably was. So, yeah, I don't know, unless they're looking at going in a different direction. 2023 would suggest they're not. I'd say they're. Yeah, TJ Reid's a definite starter. I'd say Hoggy is a likely starter.
Yeah, and in terms of Division 1, I'm not sure what way it works out, who has the tougher side of the draw next year. Cork would have had a tougher side than than Kilkenny would have had last year. And then, of course, there's no doubt that Leinster is the easier province than Munster. So, like, Horgan is going to be going through a tougher provincial championship, assuming he's starting throughout. Adam Screeney must have played about 30 games this year. I mean, again, maybe he's another young lad that, and even like schools that he would have played under 20 minor, everything in the last couple of years, he has to be minded.
He falls into that really, really red flag category where in 2023 he's already played. He played All Ireland. He won All Ireland Colleges B with his college Colossionave Cormack. He won a Leinster Colleges A with Offaly Schools. He played for the Offaly under 20s, Kilcormack under 20 hurlers who won last weekend, Kilcormack under 20 footballers, Kilcormack senior hurlers, and he's a fresher in UL. Like, so, and I don't know if he's on a scholarship or whatever, but there's certain commitments that go with that as well, that you have to play a certain amount of games if fit.
And you have to be at training and stuff like that as well.
So that's going to be tricky. The longer Kilcormack go into the Leinster Championship, probably the more difficult it gets. Yeah, he's had a mad 22 and 23 now, to be fair. And like, again, if I'm thinking of him as an awfully senior hurler in time, I'm thinking, when is he going to get a chance to bulk up and put on that probably 6 or 7 kg that he's going to need to put on? If you're playing game to game, week to week, game to game, you don't really get a chance to do that.
Yeah. Geez, like, he really does have to be minded. There's probably a lot of other lads within Offaly that need to be minded as well. But I suppose maybe you're always thinking, especially him, because of size profile. You know, if he's playing that many matches and he's not getting a chance to, I suppose, like you're saying, physically develop, geez, you'd just be worried about him getting smashed around the place by older, more experienced lads.
Yeah, well, even like, look at the under-20 final. Like, I would say they were grown men. Cork were grown men nearly, coming up against, you know, an Offaly side that had a fair whack. They were just our minor, but they were an awful lot lighter. And by the time the second half came, yeah, they'd cut off his space, but they'd also kind of physically beaten him. And I know there were a few illegal.
They were cutting lads' heads off at that stage.
No, they were, yeah. But they'd physically beaten him. And I mean, some of that was illegal and some of it was perfectly legal. But he was, you know, the attrition of that means that by the second half, he probably didn't, physically, upper body wise in particular, he probably didn't have much to give. And at senior level, I'd actually prefer if he didn't play senior hurling for Offaly in 2024. But I'm kind of half hearing that he's been called into the squad, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But I'd be happier for his long-term development if he didn't play in 2024.
I'm just wondering, how many of those Offaly players that played under 20 this year, how many of them do you think will be drafted in by the seniors next year? And I mean, some of them will still be eligible for the under 20s next year because it's such a young team.
Yeah, it's a fair balancing act there with the 20s. Like, that's why I just prefer to see them get more time with the 20s. But like, there's
it's coming that, for example, the fullback, it's James Mahon, isn't it?
Yeah.
That if he's not currently making his club team, and you know, I'm sure he will very, very soon, that would mean that, okay, he's not going to be drafted in by the county seniors straight away, as one example.
Yeah, you'd imagine so, but that's, you know, I've seen it happen before in Offaly where lads weren't necessarily on their own senior team and they have been called in. By all accounts, I think it's Dan Ravenhill and Adam Screeney that are in, and Ravenhill is still in school. He's playing. I actually drove past him this morning, would you believe, on my way down. He's centre back.
Were you covered in cowshite at the time?
No, I was not. I was clean and tidy with my latte in the car. But he's still in school as well, so he's going to be playing schools hurling with Kalash to Column, Offaly schools, club under 20, Offaly under 20, Offaly senior. I don't think he plays football, but he'll be playing club senior as well. So like, they're busy times ahead. I don't think there'll be that many of them called in. I'd say of that, like, Charlie Mitchell was already in. He'll obviously stay in there. I'd say Sam Burke was already in. I'd say Dan Ravenhill, Adam Screeney. Brecon Kavanagh would deserve a call, but if it was up to me, I'd probably leave him till 2025.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, we've so much to cover, and we'll be expecting Seán Cavanagh to come on any moment there. But I just thought, before Seán comes on, or he might jump in the middle of this, so we'll obviously cut across to him. But there's such an interesting storyline coming this weekend in the Leinster Intermediate Hurling Championship. Now, one side you've Kildalkey against Thomastown, so we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I just think this is brilliant. 𝘱𝘁𝘁𝘁 of Dublin, so that's Portmarnock, they're up against Bray Emmets. So like this, you know, in terms of like, Bray just about touched the edge of Dublin, like where Shankill is. And at the other top end, you've got Portmarnock. So in terms of Dublin, they couldn't be further away. But they actually both, because Bray have been allowed in by Dublin in some of the league setups, they both played in Division 3 of the Dublin Hurling League this year. And now they're playing in a provincial semi-final, which is quite an unusual thing. And I thought to myself, I was looking, did they play in the same division? They did, both Division 3. And then I said, I must check and see how the fixture went when they played each other. Walkover. It was conceded by Bray Emmets, and probably because they had so many lads in with the county, they probably just, you know, maybe a few lads on holidays as well. They just weren't able to put a team together. I'm guessing that's what it is.
Nah, I'd say they knew this was coming. I'd say they knew this was coming down the line. They didn't want to get any insight, make sure the Portmarnock boys didn't have any insight on them. But that is a mad one. I remember sitting down with John Henderson, was it last year before the Leinster Intermediate final? I sat down with the two Hendersons, father and son, and he just said one of the biggest things that helped the development of Bray was the fact that they were let play in Dublin, and it exposed them to, like Martin Fogarty talks about with those Tánaig leagues, you're being exposed to other counties, other players, other styles, whatever. And like as long as they're able to keep holding their own in one of those upper divisions, particularly when they're without the vast majority of county players, they're getting like that. Those lads are getting good hurling when they're not, you know what I mean? They're getting good hurling. Whereas maybe if they were playing, and they do play Wicklow League as well, to the best of my knowledge, it probably gets fairly taxing when they're playing a lot of games. But if you're playing really good games, and particularly like go and playing those games in Dublin, you don't know the lads that you're playing. There's kind of probably a bit of a different type of a bite to them maybe than just going around playing all the normal clubs that you meet in the local club championship. But that's, by all accounts, that's been a massive part of the development. Then I was kind of thinking Dublin let them into the Dublin leagues. They're dead right they do, because every which Dublin club is down in Bray Emmets nearly every night of the week, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say that if the Dublin GA ever said, look, we're going to throw you out now, we think you're holding back other teams, and then they could just say, yeah, well, forget about using our facilities. So that's Coola, Bowden, Crokes, you name it, all wondering where the hell are we going to use for a pitch tonight. Hendry has an interesting one here. Creggan and Antrim, they play Breda and County Down in the Ulster Intermediate, both relegated from Antrim Division 2 this year. So yeah, it has happened elsewhere, which is really, really interesting. I think that's great stuff.
That's gas. It's amazing though. Like, fair play to the viewers. They're always great at coming up with. That's why it's great to have all these different angles from around the country. Sure, not in a month of Sundays would we have been able to get our hands on that type of information. So that's mad. Yeah, we thought. Well, you thought you were after unearthing it first, but it looks like it's happened already.
Okay, yeah. So some other elements to that game as well. Like Marinogue are playing in Division 3, yet last year Bray beat a 𝘱𝘗𝘁𝘗𝘁𝘗 team, which is, you know, a few county panelists, the likes of Joe Flanagan. I'm assuming Killian Costello is in there, and of course Paddy Doyle as well, who was so brilliant for Dublin last year. They were just relegated from Division 1 this past season. But if you were to go by that barometer, that they beat 𝘱𝘗𝘗𝘁𝘗𝘁 last year, who were operating a couple of divisions higher than Marinogue, you'd think that would give them the edge here. Plus the fact that they just beat Portlaoise in the quarterfinal. So that would, to me, suggest that Bray have a decent chance here.
Oh, Bray have a big chance here. Bray be playing Division 1 if they had all their players available to them, or the vast majority of players available to them. Like, by far and away the best team in Wicklow, and well able to cut the mustard outside of that as well. Like, they won the Leinster Intermediate last year. I know from chatting a few of the lads there that they felt like they left that Monaleen game behind them in Tullamore, that All-Ireland semi-final, and they felt they should have been in All-Ireland semi-final. So I'm sure they're hoping to right a few wrongs over the coming weeks, potentially win Leinster and go a bit further. Now, last year's Leinster Intermediate, like the fact that Danesfort were beaten by Trim by a point, that did leave it wide open. Like, we were looking at that and we were thinking there's so many teams that could win this year, and it's probably difficult to nail your colours to the mast here. But they beat Portlaoise last weekend without John Henderson. I think he's a doubt coming into this weekend. He'd be one of their better players. They kind of could do with him back on the pitch, but I'd be still fancying Bray to get the job done here.
Yeah, so Carrickmore of Tyrone beat Lisbon Fermanagh in the Ulster Intermediate. Both played in the Tyrone League final. It happens a lot in Ulster, and we have a response from Joe McKelvey on X. Yes, lads, every year the Antrim champions play the Down champions, as witnessed on Sunday. Cushendall versus Portaferry was their third competitive meeting in 2023. Every day is a school day, Michael.
Yeah, well, like as Martin Fogarty said that time as well, they have to go. A lot of those smaller counties where there's very limited clubs, they have to go outside of their own county. But we wouldn't have known that had the boys not come up trumps.
Yeah, brilliant stuff there. We might as well talk about the other semi-final. We're still just waiting for Sean to click in there. Hopefully he will shortly. You're looking at Thomastown against Kildalkey. So based in Meath, you're well aware of the, I suppose, powerhouse of Meath hurling at this stage. Kildalkey, the way they beat 𝘬𝘲𝘢𝘗𝘗 Gales as well, who were the senior B runners-up in Offaly, 220-28. Paddy Keneally, he scored 9 points. Nick Potterton won 4. Paddy Potterton 3 points. Brian Keneally a goal. Like, they do seem like they're a common team for sure. Don't know if they can do an ace or can aspire to do an ace in time, but I think that was their first win in the Leinster Intermediate Championship. But Thomastown, that's a completely different kettle of fish.
Different kettle of fish, and I don't know if there's obviously two different teams involved, but when Trim beat Danesfort last year, I'd say any Kilkenny team is on guard going playing any Meath team now at this stage. I think Kildalkey did they win 7 of the 8 adult competitions they contested this year, I think, something like that. Like, they've just totally dominated hurling in Meath this year. And not that it's come out from nowhere, but like Trim won the senior championship last year, so it's not as if they've been racking up 3 or 4 in a row or anything like that. Far from it. But yeah, this is a massive step up. They're coming up against the Thomastown team generally, and it's generally accepted that they will be a very competitive senior team in Kilkenny for a long time. I think John Joe Farrell's out around the middle of the field. John Donnelly doing a lot of damage as he always does. I'd say, like, as regards hands, he's probably like got some of the best hands in the country as regards, you know, just that kind of sleight of hand and being able to get a strike away really quickly. Beautiful touch. They're All-Ireland favourites and heavy favourites for the intermediate at this stage. As you know, as good as 𝘲𝘁𝘀𝘀 are going, you still fancy Thomastown to come through with a small bit to spare.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, delighted to say now we're joined by Seán Cavanagh, who's come on board as an AIB ambassador for this year's Goal Mile. This year, AIB and Goal are calling on GA clubs to step up together this festive season and host their own Goal Mile to raise funds to support vulnerable communities across the world. AIB is also offering the chance to win €1,000 for their GA club, and details on how to enter are going to be in the video description underneath this. Seán, delighted to have you on the show. How are things?
Yeah, really good, man. How's things yourself?
Not too bad. The first thing we want to ask you about is that it's not so long that you were playing football for Moy in the county intermediate final as player manager, bringing yourself in. You're looking around the bench thinking, who can change things with 20 minutes to go? And you just bring a mirror out in front of yourself.
My head's still deceiving me. As a 40-year-old, I still think I'm a 25-year-old. So yeah, the crack's good anyway, and I definitely heard plenty about it from the opposition as well. Opening yourself up for abuse.
And but you have now decided to retire, have you? And was that a tough decision to make?
Again, it is tough. Even as a 40-year-old, I see John Doyle knocking around there as a 45-year-old, and I'm feeling a wee bit jealous. Or so. Yeah, it's even yet in the back of my mind, you're always wondering. I think I'm a typical man in that sense. Like, I'm always wondering. I'm going, nah, you know what? Still might get more out of himself. But yeah, I think I have to grow up at some point. I have 4 young kids. I have a lot going on with the business. At some point, I'm going to have to stop the selfishness of trying to do things for Seán Cavanagh and maybe do things for my kids and for my business and everything else. But I totally enjoyed the crack, playing, managing with the club, and we had a really good run. Probably could have ended on a couple of more positive notes than we did, but definitely a positive one regardless.
Michael, he'll be dragged out of retirement shortly, won't he?
Well, he could be dragging himself out of retirement, yeah. How did you find the management, Seán? Was that your first kind of dipping into that kind of arena?
Again, look, I enjoyed it. It was one of those ones, because I only come in mid-season as well. I didn't really have the sort of the difficult part of maybe trying to keep motivating guys through pre-seasons or early seasons. Kind of was just through in the games, and I kind of enjoyed the buzz of it, and obviously knowing the lads and the players that I was involved with, I already kind of knew their strengths, and I, as you always do, you always talk about how you can be doing things better yourself. So when you're handed the opportunity to do it better yourself, it's do or die sort of feeling. But no, I really enjoyed it, and I think we got a real good bounce out of the group, and we went on a really good run. Just a bit strange, the whole sort of player manager thing, and trying to take yourself on and then shouting to the sideline, here, look, we need to make a couple of changes. So definitely weird in that sense, but yeah, definitely positive.
And with your brother Colm in the team as well, was it any different playing alongside him than it would have been to managing him?
He just gave me a bit more abuse when he was managing. Like, he just sort of he wouldn't be long telling you when things are going wrong. But no, look, I think because like I've been playing for the Moy since 1998, so sort of 25 years in. I think probably most of the lads that were playing this year grew up watching me, I suppose, play for Tyrone and play for the Moy and stuff. So I think there was, without sounding cheesy about it, I think there was a level of respect there that the lads knew that I was deeply sort of rooted in getting the best out of the group. And because of that, it was somewhat easy going in. It's not easy as it ever is, trying to drop lads or take lads off that maybe feel that they deserve more game time and stuff. But I think people knew that I was doing it for the right reasons. And obviously the sort of dynamic when you're one of those, when you're like, I'm a deep Moy man, and I don't think I'll ever get away from that. And because of that, I think I got a great buzz whenever we won, and I think everyone felt that because I was one of them, that they were going to the well and going that little bit harder than maybe what they were previously when it was sort of not my men involved.
And did you still bring out the shimmy, the trademark shimmy?
I caught a few men, all right. Yeah. It's still there. Even a lot of the lads in training are still falling for it these days. So yeah. No, very much still there. I sort of hold it back for party trick moments more so than using it with the same functional sense that I used to use it with.
How did you find, Sean, with your two hats on as manager and player? How do you find the split season?
There's no split about it. Like I don't know. Everyone keeps talking about the split season, but our club started training in February this year, and whatever, we finished up there last Sunday. So we trained for 10 out of 12 calendar months. And the counties, sure, they're back training there now the last sort of 6 weeks. So they're training from September or October through to July or August. So I don't totally see what the split season has done. I think if anything, it's probably taken away the sense of occasion that we used to have with an All-Ireland final being the end of September, or the international rules that used to come in October or November or something. I think we've lost that sort of big day, and we've crammed too much into that sort of June, July time, where all those big games that there should be a big build up to it, a big buzz about, and there's loads of sort of narratives. I just think there's just too many games we play on top of one another, and I kind of sit there in an RTE studio sometimes a little bit hypnotized with what's going on and trying to work out where the meaning is to a lot of the games. Like whenever you're sitting, was it the National League final, was Mayo and Galway, and sort of sitting there and going, do you think Mayo will play their full team, or will they want to win this because they've got a game in 6 days' time in the championship, and then they lose the championship, and you're like, don't worry, they've got another 4 games in the super in the group stages, and then you still, after that, if you keep on losing that, you still get through. So I think we've lost that big, you start to look back at your childhood anyway when you get older. But for me, like those big games that I used to go to, the knockout games between Tyrone and Derry in 1985, Peter Cavanagh scoring, 10 out of 12 points, thrown down to 13 men, Sam getting sunburnt to a crisp, burned to a crisp on the hill in Clonus. As a 40-year-old man, I still remember what I was wearing that day, what the feeling was when Canavan scored the winning point. And I now go to games and I go, God, I don't even know what the point of that game was. And I think that's the annoyance for me, that we've crammed a lot in, but we've lost so much, and there's too big of a gap between an All-Ireland final in whatever, July or August, and now there's no real proper sort of top-end football until February next year. I think that's wrong.
We have to ask you about Mickey Harte taking over Derry. How big of a shock was it? And how much distaste has it generated in either county?
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like I could never ever have imagined it, and I don't think anyone could have. I was talking to Sam Roy last week actually, and he was sort of saying he never ever thought it was possible either. And I suppose as someone who soldiered so long with Mickey, I think he took me as a under 21 in 2002, and then whatever right through to 2017 there. He was a really, really deep-rooted traditional Tyrone man. Everything was always about Tyrone. No other county mattered. It was just dismiss everything around you. Tyrone's only gig in town. Anyone who goes outside of Tyrone, forget about them. So it's just a very strange thing. I can only imagine it's done out of his ambition, obviously, to win again. And I think when he's with Tyrone people didn't really mind, obviously, or whenever he's with Louth, they didn't really mind because Louth wasn't really that much of without any disrespect, wasn't that much of a sort of competitor. But to go to our probably traditionally, if you ask most Tyrone people who is the old enemy, it's like the Alex Ferguson going to Liverpool. The old enemy is Derry and Tyrone. I think there was probably more rivalry with them than anyone else, and they're the best team in Ulster the last couple of years. So to have that feeling or that thought in my mind of Mickey standing in a Tyrone championship or league game trying to beat Tyrone, it's bizarre. I still struggle to get my head around it. I know I couldn't do it, but obviously he has that sort of drive and ambition to get back to the top table, and fair play to him. Hope it works. Well, don't worry, hope it works out for him. At the same time, you have to have a level of respect that that's the ambition he has at the age of whatever he is, 69 or 70.
Is there any sense, Sean, because it didn't finish in Tyrone maybe how he wanted, it would kind of feel like he was pushed to the door a small bit, that it's kind of like a bit of, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong and prove that I can do it. If I prefer to do it with Tyrone, but that opportunity is no longer there, so I'm going to go and do it somewhere else. Is he, I don't know, is he that type of person?
It's hard to know. Like you'd never. Like, I'll be honest with you, I've no idea. Because I just know he is the type of person that, regardless, like I think the feeling of him not being at the top table, and maybe with some of the games he maybe was with in Louth, he maybe felt that, like, if it wasn't being shown on the Sunday game or it wasn't being talked about, like, I think he'd have struggled. Because when he was with Tyrone, like, it always was box office regardless. We were always somewhat close to winning and being at the top table. Every year I played with him in Tyrone was always about, start of the year, it was, look, we're going to win Sam Maguire. And by the way, he was brilliant at sort of making you believe that you were going to win every year. I don't think he could have done that with Louth. So I've no idea whether there's an element of revenge in it whatsoever. I don't think anyone's ever going to know that. But I do know that he's the type of man that will want to go into a change room and go, we're going to win Sam Maguire. And I think that's, like, he will convince the Derry players very quickly that they're going to win Sam Maguire in 2024. But look, I suppose it's a big risk as well, because regardless, there'll be a number of Tyrone people. There are a number of Tyrone people that aren't happy with it, that feel that they are sort of, he probably is the most well-known Tyrone GA man going to our biggest rival. So that doesn't sit well with Tyrone people. And equally, there's a lot of Derry people looking and going, what's a Tyrone man doing in our county? So I don't think he's going to have that level of protection that he maybe would have had in Tyrone, whereby people always saw him as one of us. So you always were somewhat guarded from really deep-rooted criticism. So I think that's gone. I think the scrutiny, the spotlight's going to be on from day one. It's going to be box office. Get the popcorn out.
Can I just ask you, what were the WhatsApp groups like, the former Tyrone player WhatsApp groups like, or anything like that the night it was announced, or as it started percolating out?
You don't need WhatsApp groups to know what likes emojis feeling. He'll throw it on the Twitter.
Yeah.
I know, crack's always good, but look, everyone's exactly the same. As in, Mickey was just incredibly deep rooted in his Tyrone feelings. Like I can't emphasize enough how he just always spoke about being a Tyrone man. That meant more to him than anything else. Tyrone. Everything was just, we were like a Tyrone cult. So to kind of step out of that and to go to our biggest rivals, I just struggle to see him. I can't wait to see that day where he is coaching against Tyrone, just to actually seeing is believing almost.
So is there an element of, like, when Rafa Benitez went from Liverpool to Everton, albeit there was a break in between of teams, that people will be looking for the first opportunity to have him booted out within Derry even? Like, there will be people who want this to fail as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I've no doubt, and that's what I mean by, like, the spotlight and the scrutiny. I've no doubt there'd be a lot of people watching, and if it wasn't, because, like anything, it's like, it's box office. If Ferguson was to have gone to Liverpool, there'd be a lot of Liverpool people looking in the field, and the United people looking in the field. So yeah, he's definitely put himself back into a real pressure cooker. And obviously, if things were to go wrong, if they're to lose a few games, I don't think he'll have that sort of comfort blanket and protection that he might have had, where, in Louth, the expectations obviously weren't overly high. Getting them to a Leinster final last year was a real big achievement, and it felt like they were on a bit of a journey with him. With Derry, if things were to go wrong, if they don't win Ulster this year, it'll be a massive failure. If they don't probably compete in the top end of the National League, maybe make league finals, it'll be a failure. And I've no doubt, because he's not a Derry man, the knives will be out a bit quicker.
Does he play the style of football that can bring Derry to an All-Ireland in 2024? Because one of the criticisms with Tyrone is that it was still stuck in the dark ages. And it's very easy for people to be ageist about it and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know how much you've seen of Louth in the last couple of years, probably a bit. But like, do you see him as being the type of guy who can take Derry to the All-Ireland?
Like, typically, I don't think the style he played with us in 2017, or maybe the style he played with Louth this year, would be enough to win on Ireland. But I don't know, maybe people will argue he was doing that with Louth because that's all he had in terms of player capability and quality. Who knows, he could surprise us. Like, I think, like, I even myself was surprised how attacking the likes. So I think everyone always looks at who wins the All-Ireland and how they won the All-Ireland. Like, Dublin this year, I felt won the All-Ireland and by their bravery of putting attacking players in the field, where they actually lined up with Mannion, was Small and O'Callaghan, like the 4 or 5 inside forwards in their starting forward line in All-Ireland final day, and ultimately that I believe that won them the All-Ireland. So it's going to take a real level of bravery from Mickey to do that. One, I'm not totally sure he has that sort of quality of forwards to do it with in Derry, as in like those out now. Shane McGuigan's exceptional, but he probably needs another one somewhere along the line. And maybe you'll see it. Maybe a Lachlan Murray or something will appear out of the pack or something, and I presume he'll be looking to unearth something like that. But yeah, I think he's going to have to change the style, and even the way, like, Rory Gallagher had that Derry team really refined to playing a certain style of football that probably was very innovative in the way in which they're attacking and pushing their sort of full backs into their full forward line, and even sort of pockets of space for guys to get one-on-one with guys and expose opposition weaknesses, etc. I think it could be tricky from a Derry player perspective, whereby they'll maybe be expecting that sort of level of really sort of detailed one-on-one maybe coaching that maybe had come from Rory Gallagher. And, you know, Mickey, I suppose previously maybe didn't have that level of detail. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch how it plays out, because you can definitely see he's gonna have big shoes to fill in Rory Gallagher and Kieran Mena after him, and he's going to have big expectations to fill, because Derry people are ruthless in terms of their approach, and only winning an Ulster and an All-Ireland title will satisfy them.
Joe Brolly would probably do some very forgiving columns for him after their first performance in the first class.
He'll have Joe Brolly saying rosaries in no time.
A final thing, just for next year, how do you think Tyrone will go? Are they far away, or are they getting closer?
I don't know. Like, we have to get our act together. That's the reality. We've had an incredibly poor 2 years, so it really hasn't been good enough. And like, Fergal and Brian will know that more than anyone will. They're very genuine people, but they'll know that we have to come. Like, I do believe the player pool is there. I do believe there's like, I think we're going to have to, like, we've done a couple of years of transition. 2024 has to be about trusting some of the younger lads to come with a sort of a new wave in Tyrone. But we are a big county. I do believe the quality's there, but I think Fergal and Brian's going to have to start letting some of the younger lads at it, and hoping that they'll build a new team that can compete at the top, because the last 2 years we haven't looked anywhere near it, to be honest.
Well, look, Sean, thank you very much for joining us, and look, we'll hopefully chat to you again soon when you're out of retirement.
Appreciate it.
Cheers, Sean.
All
the best. Okay, delighted to say we're now joined by another goal ambassador with AIB and goal, doing the goal mile, I should say, is Eoin Cody. Eoin, how are things?
Well, as I say,
I was expecting a Christmas hat on.
I know. I do one there. Great.
We were just talking to Sean about Mickey Harte taking over Derry, the most bitter of rivals. How would you feel if Brian Cody took over Tipperary? I'd be heartbroken now, but what do you think?
I don't think you would now, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that'll be a tough sell, all right. How's it been having a bit of downtime? For years with Ballyhale, you've just been on the go constantly during winter, and obviously Kilkenny during the year, but you've a bit of downtime.
I wouldn't say downtime now. We've been to America and to Cheltenham, so it hasn't been much downtime, but yeah, no, it's been different, all right.
Yeah, I tell Michael was saying that you skipped the All-Stars for this crack here.
That was that, lads. That was exciting. Don't be blaming me for that.
What's going on there?
What was it like going? You obviously won your first All-Star. The big kind of hullabaloo about it, and you would have won the Young Hurler of the Year at those awards before. A great occasion, but you were busy elsewhere. Richie Reid's stag, was it, in Cheltenham?
Yeah, I know. In fairness, even in 2 years, I actually won Young Hurler of the Year. There was no. It was during COVID, like, so there was no event. So I think maybe with a bit of luck, if I didn't go up last year, I might have got one as well. So I think I might stop going to them. No, look, yeah, no, it was a great weekend, and it was obviously a great honour to win the All-Star. But we had that event that Richie Stag has been planned there a long time, and it's been paid for, and everything was done in advance before we even knew the date for the All-Star. And obviously Richie, one of my best friends, so the way it worked, I wouldn't leave the man down. So hopefully Richie doesn't have to have another stag, and hopefully I could be up there for another All-Star.
What does the All-Star mean? Does the All-Star mean a bit more on when you don't win an All-Ireland? I know an All-Ireland is number one. That's what you set out to win at the start of the year. But do you take a bit of solace in winning All-Star personally? Like, because your game would have been taken to another level this year. Like, and it is nice to have something at the end of it.
Yeah, obviously, as you probably heard enough lads say the other day, that their ultimate goal is to win the All-Ireland, and unfortunately we didn't get there. But yeah, obviously it's been great to be recognised in the Team of the Year, All-Star Team of the Year. It's an achievement not many people get to have, and it's obviously one nice one to have one under the belt. And obviously when you see lads in your own team going up to accept the awards, you want to be up there as well. You're up along there with the best. Like, look, the Limerick lads are up there, Conor Whelan and Shane O'Donnell and all these lads. Like, and look, say I'm in the line there with Glenn and Conor Whelan is something that it's a great honour to say, you know, that kind of way.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, look, I want to do a bit of a quick Q&A with you. They're not that serious, just a bit of crack going more than anything else. But yeah, I'll just start off with them. You can answer them quickly if you like. So, who's faster, Richie Reid or TJ Reid?
They're both slow. Richie, I'd say.
Who's more skillful, Darren Mullen or Paddy Mullen?
Darren.
Really? Okay. Who has the reddest hair on the Kilkenny panel?
Reddest. Say John Donnelly, I'd say. He's the most of it anyway.
Who's the best man under a high ball in the Kilkenny panel?
Sure, you know that one yourself. TJ Reid.
And this is the little sidewinder now. If you could recruit one player from outside Kilkenny to join the panel, who would it be?
Who would it be? Probably, I suppose, you're looking at maybe someone around in the middle there that would influence the game. Maybe someone like probably Cian Lynch. Yeah,
It wouldn't be bad, sorry.
No, it wouldn't be bad, no.
Oh, and can I just ask you, outside of that, I was chatting to Neil McManus earlier on this year, and he made a big case for Paddy Burke should have got an All-Star nomination. Paddy Burke from Antrim. You marked him, or he marked you, should I say, that game you played up in Corrigan. What sort of a player is he? He's obviously going to be playing a club final with Cushendall in the coming weeks, but like Neil said, he did a decent job in that game. Was he a tough man to get away from?
He was good. Yeah, fairness, I seen something about that, and I agreed with him. He was actually, the day I marked him anyway, I thought, I know it was a tight pitch or whatever, but he was sticky anyway. He didn't give me much room. Yeah, I thought he was probably one of the best lads actually I would have marked this year in terms of just that day. He definitely was probably the lad that gone tough for a lot of the game. Yeah, he didn't give me much breathing space, but the kind of man mark, so that kind of led to maybe us getting in for a few goals because you could kind of drag these lads out of position, and then TJ and Mossy were kind of getting in behind. But I know in terms of one-on-one, he definitely didn't give me a sniff. No way.
What's it like when you're man marked in a game like that? Like you have to be very patient. I'd imagine it's a difficult one. Like a lot of the time I've been there myself. You have no interest in the ball really. You're just trying to spoil a fella.
Yeah.
What's that like when you're on the receiving end of it?
It's kind of depends kind of what position you're playing in. Kind of dictates, because if you're one-on-one inside, it doesn't make a difference because you won't get man marked. That's the job. Like you're man marking a lad. But if you're out the field, it is tricky because all you have to do is just stop the man, get on the ball, just follow him over. If there's rocks, especially in the winter. Summer probably for as a back is probably not as easy. But in the winter there's rocks and everything. It's really easy to stop man, get on the ball. But during summer as an inside forward for me, like you're getting man marked every game because a cornerback's job is to man mark, like so it's different. So it's about beating your man in your one-on-one duels and battles and stuff like that's the important thing there.
So like when you came up short in that Kilkenny final recently against O'Loughlin Gales, probably giving you a bit more free time than you normally would have had. What have you been doing with the free time? Have you had any chance to go away or outside of Cheltenham?
We're in America there with Kilkenny and then Cheltenham. No, I'm final year of college now, so I'm very busy there at the moment, especially coming up to Christmas. There's a lot of exams and assignments coming up, so probably give me time to get more college work done. We're back preseason training with Kenny there as well, so the time that I would have used training with Ballyhale is going to be used training with Kenny, so it's not going to be much of a difference. But obviously, I'm not going to be in a championship mindset. That'll be the only difference. It'll be a different mindset, all right. But a bit more relaxed and enjoy the winter months there of slogging in Dunmore and Kilkenny.
Like you say that through gritted teeth. Somehow I don't think there's too many people enjoy it.
You have to enjoy it. You don't like doing it, but you enjoy it after. Like if you don't enjoy it, no point going. But you be dreading it, but look, you enjoy it as well because you know the gains and the benefits that are coming from it as well long term.
Those are the sessions when you have them done. It's like the thoughts of them, and God only like the thoughts of even going to train, and it's teaming down rain and it's miserable out there. But when you have it done, there's a great old crack after, isn't there?
Yeah, no, it's great crack, and get to slag the lads that are losing and coming last and getting sick, and so hopefully that won't be one of them now in a few weeks. Could well be, but no, it'll give a chance to even get to maybe a bit of bond, or to get a bit of bond, have more. I suppose you have maybe 2 or 3 months extra with the team that I would have had any other year, so get to maybe enjoy and create a bit more of a bond with lads, and obviously use that come the summer.
This your first pre-season?
Unfortunately,
First pre-season with Kilkenny.
Yeah, sure. Since I've been with Ballyhale, we haven't lost other than the Ballygunner game, so and the O'Loughlin's game. So
you're in for a rude awakening over the next couple of months.
Does that kind of make you wonder? Like, I mean, you're in great shape already. Like, don't get me wrong, and you're one of the best hurlers in the country, hence the All-Star award. But does it make you wonder if you had a bit more time off? Like, would you be in a different shape, better? I don't know. Like, I'm just curious. Would things be different if you had that opportunity?
Absolutely. Yeah, you wonder. Don't really know what you won't know what the gains or benefits are from, because obviously you see TJ has hurling all year round the last over 20 years, and he's the best to ever play the game. It'll give me a chance anyway to improve on a few things in terms of fitness and physically. Like obviously you see lads are big and strong around, like, and it gives me a chance maybe to maybe prioritise that stuff for a while rather than the actual hurling itself.
Are you aware that you just said that TJ Reid is the greatest hurler of all time, ahead of your uncle Henry Shefflin?
I know. I did, yeah. Well aware. For me, especially just because I've heard of TJ, I never heard of Henry. But from what I've seen, there's no way someone can do what he does on the pitch day in, day out. Regardless of what Henry's won, I don't know if it's possible, because TJ, he's unique. He's a different animal than I've ever seen. I think if everyone actually seen the work he does in the train and the things he does in train, like you only see it not even on match day, but in train, challenge matches, small things that he does, like it's incredible. It's crazy.
Just in terms of then next year with Kilkenny, and Michael was bringing up the stat to me privately beforehand that next year could be 10 years without an All-Ireland with Kilkenny.
I'd safely say the Tipperary man brought that up. No, not me, but
I wouldn't do that, all.
No, it's creeping up all right. I know that it's something, since I've been involved in the panel, it's something I want to achieve, and it hasn't happened yet, and something that I really want to achieve. And obviously my teammates are in the exact same boat. Lads haven't been there since 2015, since Joey Hall and lifted the Liam McCarthy. Kilkenny haven't been there, and that's probably not what anyone, if you told someone maybe 10 years ago that we wouldn't, I don't know how long it's going to be now, but if they told you, I don't think they believe you. It's the way it's gone, and we're looking to rectify that every year. And obviously there's a few teams that are there and thereabouts, and obviously you have Limerick, like, so someone has to take them down, but it's not going to be easy. And like, they have that 4 in a row win mentality. They're crazy good. They have a crazy good squad. It's not going to be easy, but look, we'll give it our shot, and let's just we're looking forward to the year ahead.
Yeah, Michael.
What's it like playing against Limerick on? Like we've often spoken about Ballygunner, even just when we're chatting about club here, and I imagine it's very claustrophobic. What's it like playing against Limerick? I'd imagine even physically, it's like no other challenge really.
Yeah, look, they're good at what they do. Simple as they're well drilled, well coached. Their shape, they don't lose shape. Their shape is always held so well. And especially I think when they get into Crow Park and the space in Crow Park, I think might take that. They just use it so well, and they believe in themselves. Obviously, they're 15 serious hurlers, and they have 5 serious hurlers come off the bench. They have that win mentality. It's going to be hard for a team to take them down from the actual knockout themselves. But they're a serious team. Look at the size of them all. My father looked up to All-Star the other day, and I think he wouldn't go over the size of the lads he was standing beside. So yeah, look, they're not going to be easy to bet. But look, hurling takes on life. Someone wants to fight. The whistle is blown, and one team wins at the end of the day.
Your father must have been delighted, rubbing shoulders there. I saw the pictures going around the 5 Kilkenny All-Stars. There's 2 daddies in there.
Yeah, there's the father. Yeah, no, the father has a little belly there. I say that could have been me now. If I didn't have freezes now, that belly could be me now. So I have to make sure that's not me now for the next few weeks.
Can we ask you about, since you've come up against the O'Loughlin's, how do you think the O'Loughlin's Kilcormack-Killahey game will go? I don't know how much you've seen of Kilcormack, but just would you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't know too much about Kilcormack now, to be honest. But yeah, what I can say, I suppose O'Loughlin's will defend well. They'll defend. They've obviously have brilliant defenders, and they'll build from the back. They have forwards that can do damage, but they'll probably look to maybe keep the team they're playing against have a lower score, and they will put up a high score. They're not going to they'll keep a low scoring contest, especially this time of year. And then look, you have backs. Obviously, you have Screeney there, and you assume that Mikey Butler might pick him up, which will be great to watch. Obviously, it'll be different contests in the winter. It'll be a lovely one to watch in the summer, all right, because Screeney's skill would really show. Yeah, but show, I suppose, how good Screeney is when marking Mikey Butler. As I know, Mikey Butler was the best cornerback in the country the last 2 years. So it'll show where he is in terms of that. It's probably skill against muscle in that one. But yeah, no, it'll be a good game. Look forward to watching it. But I don't know who will win. I don't know too much about Cormack to decide that, but I'm sure it'll be a great game.
In terms of like you being like a young player of promise, and you were known early because you won the Young Hurler of the Year twice, is there any sort of advice you'd give to a younger player? And I'm going to pick Adam Screeney as an example because he just gets so much publicity. We even have him in the title of the show today, Butler versus Screeney. But like I remember the All Ireland last year against Cork, the under-20. Like the cheer when his name went up and his name went up on the screen. Is there any advice you'd give to a young player who's got that bit of spotlight around him?
Probably just keep whatever he's doing. He's doing it right, I suppose, and just enjoy it. By the looks of him anyway, he's a lad that really loves hurling. He's going out and playing hurling, and I wouldn't tend to change that anyway. I think Killian Corcoran from Ballyhale was living, or his friends with him down in UL. He was saying that he just loves pucking and stuff. So look, I wouldn't give him any advice other than keep the head down and maybe listen to his coaches or whoever was around him the whole time, and trust in them. I suppose after your up and coming team, it's not going to happen straight away, but just trust the process really and enjoy it. And
you know the things that probably made us all fall in love with hurling early doors is going down to the park, pucking around and just flicking and messing and all this kind of stuff. Given the amount of time you have to put into hurling with gym and going to train and all that, do you still get an opportunity to go down to the park with the boys and do that, just flicking around, messing around, or is it too much at that stage?
Yeah, no, you would. There's times obviously you don't want to be doing too much because you might be with the train load and stuff. You don't want to be overdoing yourself. But look, there's times when it might be a nice sunny day and you're in the gym with the lads, you go out for a few pucks, or there's training on Ballyhale, you go over to the pitch for the evening, or there's a junior game or a senior game on, we go over and there'll be a handful of us there and we'd puck around, but they never be anything too hectic. You obviously have to mind yourself, and with the training we're doing with Kenny, we believe in that it's enough, and you can go out and bust yourself outside of training, or else you'll be gassing out.
And like you're very good in the air, and so are a lot of the Ballyhale lads, I should say. Like, how would you have honed that over the years? Is it something as simple as down to the park, 10 lads under a ball, it's pucked up in the air, and you learn to fight for it?
Yeah, I suppose like when we were growing up, like all we have in Ballyhale actually is a pitch, and obviously we have the pole ball. But back in the day, we weren't allowed back there. Probably won't there too much rather than the pitch now. But no, all we had was the pitch to 𝘬𝘓𝘂. Like, so every day, whether it was summer or winter or whatever, we just find ourselves there, and you'd be there with a flock of lads, and we either playing soccer, hurling, at all, and then obviously you have your different kind of games. It could be, as I used to say, a game, one lad hitting up, drop the hurlers, everyone hitting the ball up and try and catch it and stuff. It was the same in Kieran's. Kieran's was crazy in terms of that. There was just like break times. There might be a 2-minute break between class, and there's lads outside just going mental, trying to catch ball, pulling jerseys off each other and t-shirts off each other, like, you know. But yeah, no, I think obviously then you have to obviously do it in a game. Once you start kind of maybe win 1 or 2 high balls, you have to trust yourself and believe in yourself, and you look at how other lads are doing it, because it's not an easy thing to do. Catching from in front, catching from behind. There's different ways and different things and stuff. So you learn the whole time, especially probably in training. You can do drills as well that can really improve it as well.
Yeah, Michael.
Just a quick one on before we let you go. I presume you'd love to win a 𝘧𝘂𝘁𝘮 before you leave college.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We obviously have Carlo there, SCTU Carlo now, as it's called this year. Cheddar Plunkett is our manager. They have a team there. We have a great league campaign. We have a lot of kind of county lads and stuff that weren't involved, and lads with their club. So we'll give it a rattle. Probably not as strong as other years, but look, as I said, hurling us all in this day, and with SCTU Carlo, from what I've been there, they love kind of being the underdog and stuff. So we'll enjoy it. I think UL probably will be very strong again. They have a lot of them Limerick lads, and sure, after winning maybe the last 2 in a row, and they're very strong. But we'll give it a rattle, all right.
The 𝘧𝘂𝘁𝘮 is great old crack, isn't it, around that time of the year? Like, there's nothing like going playing a match midweek or whatever on the road, and I don't know, enjoying yourself on the way back, win, lose or draw.
Yeah. You know, that's enjoyable, and then obviously to hurl with lads that are around the place, and what lads you're in college with and stuff, and lads you might know from different clubs and different counties, to hurl with them, and then just have the chat with them, then maybe have a few drinks and stuff and enjoy your night or whatever. But yeah, no, it's a great competition.
Yeah, just a final one for me then. Brian Cody was obviously managing against you this year, and you had a good victory over him. Do you see him staying involved in club hurling? It seems like he's just addicted to it.
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, Brian. Well, I know Brian anyway. He loves hurling. He eats, drinks, sleeps at everything. Everything's hurling for Brian. He loves it. So I can imagine he'll stay with the village. I think he is with the village again this year. I'm fairly sure he might have a few new members of the staff or different lads from the management team, but I think Brian is coaching him again this year. No, he will. He loves hurling. He loves hurling, and if he wasn't managing, he'd be there at every game around the county. Like even this year, when we were playing at Ballyhale and we weren't playing against the village, I seen him before every game on the sideline, like, you know. So no, he lives, breathes hurling. He loves it, so he'll stay around for a while.
Okay, well, look, Eoin, really appreciate you joining us, and best of luck with the season ahead.
Yeah, thanks, lads.
Cheers, Eoin, good man.
Okay, so a couple of brilliant guests to get on the show there, but we still have loads more to talk about, including Kilcormac-Callaghy meeting 𝘱𝘁𝘃 this weekend, which I'm saying to you is as important for the county of Offaly as it is for the club Kilcormac. Of course, it's huge for them, but I've talked to you for years about this whole Stockholm syndrome, where basically, because
this crack again.
You've been in the doldrums for so long that all you could do was lick the backside of Kilkenny for years and tell them to get there. You know, that's all you've been able to do. But here's a chance for the first time since a little known Michael Verney led Birr to victory over Ballyhale in 2007 club. No Offaly team has beaten a Kilkenny team at senior level since. I think this is big for the county of Offaly as well as for Kilcormac, obviously.
Yeah, no, you're probably right, to be honest with you. And I tell you why it's big. It's big because it's a 50-50 game. They're not going in as underdogs, right? Like that. I don't know what the odds are. They probably are underdogs according to the odds, but to me, it's a 50-50 game. And now the stats you brought up there, I don't think Offaly clubs have played Kilkenny clubs that many times. Ballyhale got one back on us. Ballyhale beat us in 06, we beat in 07, they beat us in 08. Ballyhale beat Kilcormac after extra time in 14, and Rhinus were beaten by Ballyhale after extra time in 21. I actually don't know in the intervening 7 years whether they met at all. I don't know if Offaly clubs got far enough for them to meet, to be honest with you. But,
yeah, which kind of feeds into the whole point that, like, you could say, oh, they haven't played each other that much. Well, a lot of Kilkenny teams got to the final. The Offaly teams have been, you know, performing so poorly that they haven't even got that far. So it's still a huge deal, because I think this would say, look, we're back as a hurling county. I mean, it'd be great to do it on the county level, but if you could make that inroads at club level, that would be huge.
Well, I tell you why it's big as well, because like the likes of Screeney and Brecon Cavan and these boys don't know how to lose, and if they're able to go and beat a big Kilkenny club team, and there's a good cohort of KK lads that are going to be backbone in the county team, that are already backbone in the county team, some of them, and are going to be backbone in the county team for years to come. So it definitely would be a big one to win. I find it very difficult to call this game now, I have to say. I've seen Kilcormack at close quarters. I was at the county final, saw them on the box the last day. I was at the 𝘱𝘊𝘬𝘮 the last 2 games. I think Eoin Cody put it pretty well there when he says 𝘱𝘊𝘬𝘮 they're not going to try and beat you in a shootout. That's not how they try and beat you. It's more, we'll stay really, really tight at the back here. I know they conceded, what did they concede? 19 against Ballyhale. Like, that's outstanding. That's an outstanding tally to concede against Ballyhale. Conceded 13 the last day. It's generally those type of miserly enough tallies. Geez, I'm just thinking actually off the top of my head, when was the last time they conceded a goal actually? They didn't concede a goal to the Bridge, didn't concede a goal to Ballyhale, didn't concede a goal to Mount Leinster. Maybe against 𝘰𝘮𝑚 in the quarterfinal. I can't. Maybe.
I'll look it up.
They might have conceded 2 goals that day actually. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. But it's a fairly watertight defence. And Kilcormack have been good at getting goals. They've 5 goals in their last 2 games. And they've been racking up really big scores. So you have a team that's racked up really big scores. The 326 in the county final. It was a 222 the last day. Coming up against a really miserly defence, backbone by 3 Kilkenny fellas, 3 Kilkenny county fellas, and 2 All-Stars in that, in Hugh Lawler and Mikey Butler. So it's going to be a savage battle.
Yeah, it was 𝘱𝘊𝘬𝑚's were 18 points, 𝘰𝘮𝑚 210. So yeah, it's a long time since they conceded goals. But are we saying basically that Kilcormack, they are the ones who want that open game? They want this to be tit for tat if at all possible.
They're the more likely of the two that would prefer it that way, I'd say. Now, they would not be averse to a real battle, though. Far from it. I mean, you go through the spine of the team. Like, Oisin Matton is a big physical specimen. Cillian Kiley is the same. Damien Gilmartin midfield the same. Conor Matton centre forward the same. They actually, like, probably, I would say, on balance of the whole team overall, Kilcormack probably have a better balance to their team. I also think when you look at the Kilcormack forward line, they can probably hurt you in more ways than the 𝘱𝘊𝘬𝘮's defense.
But I would have said more so in summer hurling than in winter, which is another point that Owen alluded to.
Yeah, you're probably leaning maybe to Screeney with that point, but I wouldn't say that about Conor Matton or Charlie Mitchell or James Gorman.
Yeah, but there's who was wearing number 26? He played quite well.
Lee Kavanagh, yeah, definitely a bit lighter, yeah.
And these are all really good players, don't get me wrong, but if we're going to try and honestly analyse this thing and not just say everyone's brilliant at everything, we have to look at these things. And, like, then in terms of the matchups, like, is James Gorman going to be able to get, like, he got 1-3 the last day and obviously flicked on the ball, which led to a goal from Screeney. Is he going to be able to get much change out of Hugh Lawler, for example, here?
I don't think he needs to get that much change out of him. But if you can take Hugh Lawler out of the game and let somebody else make hay, that's honestly what.
How does he do that now? So let's say you're trying to tell James Gorman, take him out of the game. How do you tell him to do that?
I'd probably be standing in the edge of the square with Hugh Lawler. But I don't think they'd be hitting in half as much ball as they were hitting in the last day. I don't think they're going to make a hero out of Hugh Lawler. But if that means Hugh Lawler only gets 5 or 6 possessions in the game, he's one of their best players to build from the back. That takes away a bit of a weapon because he will walk out with ball. That the last thing now, and then when they do hit in a ball, it needs to be almost when 𝘱𝘊𝘬𝑚's aren't ready for it. I don't see them launching ball in the whole day on top of Gorman. Far from it. Same as like if Mikey Butler picks up Adam Screeney, as most people would expect, even though maybe he'd pick up Charlie Mitchell, but I doubt it. I would expect him to pick up Screeney. Like I wouldn't necessarily be horsing every ball into that corner. Do you know what I mean? Because as I said, I do think Cormack have more of a balance across their forward line. So if you were able to take if you're able to minimise maybe what the effect that Hugh Lawler and Mikey Butler can have in the game, to me that's massive advantage to Kilcormack, even if that means taking Screeney out of the game to some extent, because I still think they have other weapons that they can hurt them with, and I think they have more weapons overall in attack to hurt O'Loughlin's than vice versa.
So are we thinking that, okay, overall here, when we're saying that Mikey Butler possibly and Hugh Lawler will be playing close to goal, that Kilcormack need to win this game in the first 100 yards of the pitch rather than within the full 140 or whatever, that they need to not pump the ball inside, maybe get it up to the half-hour line, have runners off the shoulder and try and score from 40 yards out time and time again. And then at the other end, when we know O'Loughlin's will try to build out from the back, it's tough at this time of the year, and it went wrong a couple of times against Mount Leinster, and they got away with it a little bit. Are they going to have to do that and say, okay, work it out there, we'll drop back, and then best to look with you trying to run it out into numbers? Because, like, let's say James Gorman or anybody pushed up on Hugh Lawler, if he turns and runs the ball out past you, he probably will get it out past you, same with Mikey Butler.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. I think Kormack can hurt them from, let's say, out on that middle third. I think they can score and can clock up big scores there. And then that maybe draws, maybe that'll draw Hugh Lawler, maybe that'll draw Mikey Butler out a small bit, maybe, or something like that. Or maybe they'll think, okay, we can't be affording them as much space here. Then there's a time for that kind of, it was like, it's called a spade a spade. It was 2 ignorant balls into the edge of the square because they got their 2 goals off from Nfina. But Kilcormack were brilliant in the first 10 minutes. And then I thought they were out-taught for 20 minutes coming up to half-time. Like, there was a lot of ball hit down to the free Nfina player, and Nfina were walking out with ball, just probably weren't able to do it as effectively as O'Loughlin's would. O'Loughlin's will punish you if that's the way they play, but I'd see maybe Kilcormack maybe hurting them from further out the pitch. Or I think they have a good few weapons in attack, but I do think O'Loughlin's will make this a real kind of a dogfight, really. And I don't like 16 points apiece, maybe even something like that, maybe a goal on each side. I don't expect it to be a big high scoring game. I expect it to be more of a kind of a war of attrition, really.
Yeah, there's a lovely spine of ignorance to that Kilcormack team, and I mean that in a good way. Oisín Mahan fullback, who he'll grapple with, we'll kind of see. Maybe Paddy Butler, somebody like that, but Butler likes to drift out and win balls, so we'll see how that goes. Cillian Kiley, probably as ignorant a centre back as you'll meet at this level. And again, I mean that as a positive thing. And of course, great spine that O'Loughlin's have with Hugh Lawler and Paddy Deegan. Damien Kilmartin, then he'll add a bit of bulk around the centre of the field for Kilcormack. And look, I think Charlie Mitchell could be a huge key player here. Like, I could see him being a game winner if Kilcormack are going to get over the line.
Yeah, potentially. Like, he was brilliant he had 5 from play against Rhinus in the county semi-final. He hit 1-4 in the county final. Got better as the game went on the last day. Maybe O'Loughlin's will look at him and think that we need to nail him at the start, and maybe it's Mikey Butler that goes over on him. I'm saying that, like, if Mikey Butler goes on Charlie Mitchell, that leaves Tony Forrestal on Adam Screeney. Tony Forrestal, who's handled Colin Fennelly well in the past. Maybe that's the way they will look at it. Maybe we have the duel all wrong. But there's some tasty battles there. They're really, really, from a Kilcormack point of view, you're then thinking like they need to minimise the damage that Mark Bergen does up front. Then you're looking at, will Luke Hogan start? Like, after scoring 1-1 the last day, nearly scoring 2-1, you're kind of thinking, does he have to start? Or will they leave him in reserve like Brian Hogan has done consistently this year, and he's kept going on about the bench and needing to have big players to come in? Will he keep him in reserve? I don't know. I think he played really too well the last day to keep him in reserve in a way. I'd say Tom Spain will probably pick up Owen Wall, who's a tricky player and got a brilliant goal the last day. Oisín Mahan would probably be on. I'd say he'd probably be on Paddy Butler, I'd imagine. There's some battles there. I'm kind of thinking that Kilcormack could just about shade some of those bigger battles.
Yeah, I like the thought of Brecon Cavanagh against Oisín Wall. Just speed on speed. That could be quite tasty.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll happen. That'd be Brecon. I think it's more likely the Spain will pick up Owen Wall and they let Brecon Cavanagh drift out with somebody else, because Owen Wall generally stays in. Because Brecon Cavanagh is actually, like, he's good cornerback, but he's better wing back, or even better probably midfielder. He's too good on the ball nearly to be a cornerback.
Fair enough. That makes it interesting. Conor Heary's been a very important player for O'Loughlin Gaels. Who do you see going on him? Like I was impressed with the wing back Enda Grogan the last day, but I don't know if he'd be put on him or told get on the ball yourself.
Yeah, size-wise, Jordan Quinn would probably match up well with Conor Heary. To me now, like Conor Heary has been O'Loughlin's best player the last 2 games. Their most effective player. In a forward line, like not like laden with stars, he has made the whole thing tick. He's caught puck outs, he's carried ball, he gets in big hits, he's got a couple of scores. He wins frees. Like they parked him on the edge of the square in the county final for most of it, and he was outrageously effective. So, like from a Kilkenny point of view, I think stopping his influence is huge as well. I'd imagine Jordan Quinn would probably pick him up. The battle midfield, Jack Nolan was man of the match the last day. He had 3. Kilcormack are probably physically bigger around the middle of the field. Be interesting to see which one of them, whether Damien Kilmartin picks up Nolan or Cian Lai. But I'd probably give Kilcormack a bit of an advantage there in the middle of the field. I think Cotton Kiley is back fit to come on as well. He picked up a fairly horrendous injury in the county final that he had to get operated on. He's back in action. I probably think Kilcormack might just about do it. The fact it's in Tullamore is probably a bit of a help as well.
Former Hurling and Offaly, of course.
Wash your mouth out with soap and water. Do you know what? Kilcormack will do it after extra time because I think it could be that tight.
Conor Heaney says maybe stop saying ignorant if you have to keep saying it's a good thing. Okay, maybe we'll just stop saying it's a good thing and just call things ignorant. And if anyone questions it later on, we'll say obviously it's the highest compliment we could possibly pay to you.
Yeah, maybe good and ignorant. Maybe then it kind of comes across a bit better.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to go with O'Loughlin's to win this.
What's the basis?
Well, just who's going to break down Hugh Lawler? You don't want to send the ball into the inside line. I think they have a very good half-back line. Jordan Malloy has impressed me a nice bit. The midfielders are good, strong runners with the ball. Loy comes to mind in some of the runs he's made in recent games. I think Owen Wall could get in for a goal at some stage. Paddy Butler is excellent winning the ball. So is Conor Heary, who you've mentioned. And Mikey Butler, of course, I don't even think I mentioned him there. Just think they've got a great spread across the pitch. But again, I think it's going to be puck of a ball either way. But I'll just about fall on the side of O'Loughlin's.
Yeah, it's the game of the weekend, realistically. Absolute belter. So many really good duels to look forward to.
And, of course, it's a brilliant game between Naas and Nfina because both of these teams, they're chasing a first ever Leinster final, which, both of the teams on the other side, they've been there in the past. And Kildare, but actually it's kind of a battle of the super clubs in a way. I was looking it up. Nfina have about 3,500 members and about 200 teams across all codes. Naas have 2,800 members and catering for about 90 teams. So, you really are talking about 2 clubs that are potentially on the cusp of huge things. Both very strong dual clubs, of course, as well. Not that there's a massive crossover between both teams. I think it's 3 players, Brian Byrne, James Burke and Derek Gearan, who are doing the crossover in Naas. I'm not sure there's too many other than Conor McHugh really with Nfina. There's no one else coming to mind off the top of the head. But this in its own right is a tasty enough game, and it had to be moved to Portlaoise.
Yeah, it's funny. They're both super clubs, but they're both kind of, I mean this in the best way possible. They're both liked at the minute because they haven't, they're not dominating or winning Leinsters or whatever. Nfina only won their first county title this year. So they're both kind of still well liked at the minute. But if they start winning, the chorus of boos will come down on top of them, as is our want in Ireland. If someone, if you're big and you start dominating, we'll be all over you straight away, and we won't wish you any luck whatsoever.
Yeah, can't have people getting ahead of themselves now, can we?
Yeah, no, it's a really intriguing game. As Tom Mullally pointed out, I think in one of the papers, Naas have only actually won 2 Leinster senior club games. They've beaten Shinrone and they beat Camross the last day and survived at the end of the game the last day. You're kind of just thinking Nfina's probably banana skin was the Raharney game, which was tricky at times, and you're coming 2 weeks after winning your first county title and all the celebrations and everything that comes with that. They've kind of gotten over that, and it was tough conditions in Cusack Park that day. Yeah, you probably have Nfina as favourites nearly going into this game. Nearly, just based on how well the 2 Curries are playing. AJ Murphy's playing the best hurling of his career, since the Dublin Senior Hurling Championship kicked off. He's been absolutely outstanding. maybe there's a possibility that 𝘱𝘶𝘢𝘗 could feature in some shape or form, or he's getting a bit closer to featuring, maybe. And obviously you'll have Liam Rush at the centre of defence as well, and Conor McHugh, who's a tasty player as well. But then on the other side, you have an ace side that were brilliant against Ballyhale for long stages last year, and you think it only looks like they're kind of grown into themselves at this stage. Survived a bit of an onslaught the last day, but survived all the same, and will be much the better for it. Like, how are you seeing this? Like, there's 2 semi-finals, and you'd be a brave man realistically to call the Leinster final paired.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the impact of that extra time would have had last week, because Naas had to really dig deep to beat St. Lomans. And I just want to check, were any of the players, the dual players that I've talked about, were they taken off during extra time? Looking at it here, so the players that were substituted were, okay, so, no, it looks like, I think they all played on for the entirety. So you just wonder how much is that going to have taken out of those players coming into a second huge match in the space of a week. Might take a little bit. And like, Naas have obviously gotten to a Leinster final in football before, but no Kildare team, and I mean understandably because for years they haven't even operated in the Leinster Senior Championship, no Kildare team has ever gotten to a Leinster final before. Like, this would be huge. I think it's a really tough game to call, but just maybe I've just seen more of Nfina over the years and I know more about their players that I'm sort of leaning towards them a little bit. But like, you can't dismiss how well Naas did last year against Ballyhale Shamrocks at Croke Park as well. So they probably got a taste of the big time, and they know that, you know, they're born for this too.
Yeah, in the likes of Brian Byrne and James Burke and Jack Sheridan, obviously you've got deadly county players, let alone deadly club players. The 𝘱𝗵𝗃𝘀𝘀 boys obviously with county experience, albeit at a lower level than what the Nfina boys are coming out against. Yeah, I'm probably just stumping with Nfina because I thought their quarter-final was a real stumbling block, and they got through that, you know, comfortably-ish in the end. And they might just come through here again. Good to see that it's gone to Portlaoise as well, basically essentially due to popular demand. And they're obviously going to bring a massive travelling support, as will Naas, I'm sure. Like, imagine being from Naas and heavily involved in GA at the minute. Like, you're in dreamland week on week. Like, you are in dreamland, rocking on to different venues around Leinster. You know, senior teams, one already in the Leinster final. These guys trying to get into the double. I think you put up on our game as well about
yeah. So last year Kilmacud Crokes got to both Leinster finals. This year Naas are bidding to do it. Who is the only other club to qualify for both Leinster club finals in the 1 year?
Leinster, 𝘬𝘓𝘁. Like, there's been ones outside of Leinster, like Schlockneil and the likes, but within Leinster. Okay, so it's obviously not Kilkenny. It's not Wexford. Is it Dublin?
No.
Maybe it is one of the counties. I said it wasn't. So it's hardly Westmeath. It's hardly Carlow. 𝘬𝘓𝘓𝘁. Is it Wexford?
It is. Andrew Sullivan 180 here says that it's Portlaoise.
Very good. It would have been a while trying to get that now.
It was 86 or 87. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was 1986.
That's right, yeah. That's right. You're right, actually, now that you say it, yeah. Pat Critchley played them both.
Yeah, so I think, I think Nfina will just about get over the line here. Just about. But I'm not saying with any degree of confidence.
Yeah, like you're saying it's going to be Nfina O'Loughlin's final. It could easily be a Kilcormack Naas final.
Which is probably what the public would want, isn't it? The latter. Well,
given that Offaly are operating at Joe McDonagh and Kildare are operating at Christy Ring, Jesus, that'd be surely the first time ever that to be two counties represented in a provincial final where neither the counties operate at All-Ireland level, wouldn't it? Surely.
Yeah. So that would be like, get your comments in, let us know what you'd like, and I suppose any other aspects of any games that you think are interesting this weekend. The Leinster Junior Hurling Championship semi-final seed Fodor Regan's Cranford against Tuller Ross Birkin. And after the way they dismissed, who was it again? Clockbawn, wasn't it? In the previous... No, sorry.
Cole Shanahan.
Thomastown beat Clockbawn. But, Wally Walsh and Co will be expected to come through there. Carrick Riverstown against Leixlip. How would you expect the Offaly tip team to go there?
Yeah, Carrigan Riverstown were beaten narrowly in the under-20 final by like the cream of the 𝘱𝘁𝘗𝘁 crop last weekend. Like narrowly, I think it was, what did it finish? 3-12 to 16. And basically this Carrigan Riverstown senior team are obviously playing in junior. That's backboned by a load of those, the likes of Lee Hogan and Cottle King. And it would be a massive crossover between those two teams. I don't know much about league slip, if I'm honest, but Carrigan Riverstown have won 2 games already. They beat 𝘱𝘵𝗍𝘗 Good Counsel the last day, and I think it was Oliver Plunkett's the first day. So they've 2 games won on the road. I think I don't know if they're at home this weekend, but the previous 2 games were at home. Probably maybe just about see Carrigan Riverstown come through, but as I said, I wouldn't know that much about league slip.
Yeah, okay. Then in the Connacht Intermediate Hurling final, Turin will be against Ballindereen. Because the London final wasn't actually played in time, basically it means a bye to the final for Turin, who are looking to win a 5th in 6 years. So either the Connacht Club Championship at senior level has to be resurrected, but something's got to give here at some stage if Turin keep winning this, just because Naas won intermediate twice in a row. They had to be promoted to senior level. Something's going to have to give here.
Yeah, Turin beat 4 Roads on a bank holiday Monday, and were due to play the London representatives the weekend before last, and obviously that never happened. I think Brother Pierces are playing Robert Emmets, I think it's like December the 9th, I think. So they'll be celebrating Christmas, whoever wins that. But if Turin do win this and they win 5 in 6 years, they're kind of thinking, is it time to resurrect potentially the Connacht Club Championship? They were beaten 5 points when they played Naas in that 2022 All-Ireland Intermediate semi-final. Maybe they'll chip a good few beatings initially, and it'll probably just be a straight final, either that or like you probably wouldn't say the Roscommon representatives have earned the right to go into it if Turin beat them fairly well the last day. But for like if Turin do win, they're kind of thinking you need to push on and step up maybe and get more exposure to better teams, shall we say. And if that means
they win a 2nd All-Ireland in a row, but within that also, they beat
beaten by Monleen, yeah.
Sorry, I was mixing them up. If they get to a 2nd All-Ireland final in a row, is that enough evidence to suggest, or like if they get to the final 1 year, win it the next year, is that enough to say, come on now, you have to put them into the senior? But to be fair, actually, there is talk that in a couple of years that the Galway clubs will be going into the Leinster Championship. So maybe in a way it might work out quite well if they end up in the Leinster Championship.
Maybe. The talk of the Galway clubs is nothing about any other clubs, I don't think. So yeah, maybe the Connacht Club Championship will be resurrected for 1 year or something, and then maybe Turin will be Connacht champions every year after. I don't know. That's going to be that. We'll follow that one kind of again. Like if Galway are going in, I don't know if Galway are going in. Should Mayo go in? Will Roscommon go in then as well? Then it gets very convoluted, and then you have
but I suppose Turin would have a bit more of a compelling case.
Yeah, they would, of course. Yeah, and then if you look at the Connacht Junior Hurling Championship final, you have 𝘱𝑚 from Sligo against Ballinasloe. So 𝘱𝑚 were obviously beaten in this year's All-Ireland Junior final by Ballygiblin, and with the likes of Andrew Kilcullen and that in their midst, you'd have to be expecting them to come through there.
Yeah, I always find it mad that Ballinasloe, and I know they have other competing sports, but in a very strong GA county, that they're not stronger at club
Big
level.
spot, like, yeah. I was actually born there, would you believe? Probably their greatest claim.
Well, my youngest brother was also born there now, so it's nip and tuck between
their greatest claim or their greatest shame.
Yeah, there's some other really good games coming on this weekend. So Glen against Naomh Conaill in the Ulster football semi-final. Like Glen are such heavy favourites here against Naomh Conaill because the Donegal team robbed Gowna at the death with that well-worked goal, to be fair to them. Robbed might be a slight exaggeration. The other semi-final, Trillick against Scottstown, which could be a tasty one. Both of those teams came from behind against powerhouses to win. Like Trillick were a nice bit behind on Crossmaglen. I think they were maybe 4 behind. They won by 5 eventually and kept Cross completely scoreless in the second half. This is without Matty Donnelly and Michael Gallagher. And Scottstown, they were well behind on Kilcoo, probably 4 points. And they won by 1 at the death as well. Like both of these games could be kicking the ball going into the last 5 minutes.
They could be, from a Naomh Conaill point of view, they've been really strong up in Donegal, obviously. Was this year their 7th final in a row or something like that, I think. So a time comes like where you have to kind of kick on. you wouldn't say they kicked on necessarily the last day against Gowna, but they got the result, which will surely give them a good bit of confidence coming in. Interestingly, the Gowna Naomh Conaill game was an exact repeat of last year when they played, except the route was on the other foot. Gowna worked a short free and put it into the square to basically rob Naomh Conaill last year. And Naomh Conaill obviously learned from that and did the same to them this year. But they're coming up against a powerhouse in Glen that are going to be very, very difficult to stop. And I don't think they will be stopped. As regards the other semi-final, Trillick and Scottstown. Scottstown, again, like, they haven't won the Ulster title, but they got a massive result last weekend. Like, if you're on paper beforehand, you're probably saying Kilkenny and Glen are the two best teams in Ulster, and that's based on the last couple of years and even their form coming into this game. So Scottstown have to be one of the big hitters now. But you're coming up against a team that just don't seem to know how they're beaten or when they're beaten in Trillick. Like, nobody expects them to win Tyrone. Nobody expects them to win the last day. They're missing two of their best players, but they just still seem to power on. Now, I still think Scottstown will just about come through, and I think it'll be a Scottstown-Glen final. But definitely two tasty games this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. In Munster then, Clonmel are against Dingle and Rathgormack are against Castlehaven. Rathgormack are going to be without Conor Murray, who's gone to Australia, and Michael Curry, who's suspended. And having not played in 4 weeks, that kind of makes this a pretty tall order for them. Castlehaven are 5-1 on. The other side, Clonmel against Dingle. That seems like it could be a pretty tasty fixture there. I'm thinking, could we see the likes of Seamus Kennedy up against Paul Ganey? Both actually, like, Paul Ganey used to play hurling underage for Kerry, and obviously Seamus Kennedy is a very, very prominent footballer as well as being an inter-county hurler. But there's 4 Ganeys in that Dingle forward line, and there's a lot of county quality, I should say, on the tip side. So it really does suggest it's going to be a good match.
Yeah, obviously, the kind of caveat when you're not county champions, coming into a game, but they did know that they were going to be representing Kerry and Munster from a long way out. So you just wonder how Dingle.
Well, they've been playing that is it the East Kerry Championship or West Kerry, whichever divisional championship they've been playing in the last week or two.
It's Kerry is probably brave saying this, maybe even more convoluted than Cork. The Cork Championship. There are so many championships in Kerry. It's unbelievable, and they love having games to play around Stevens' Day every year. They absolutely love it. Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably still be favouring Clonmel here. Dingle have obviously a couple of marquee names, but Clonmel were fairly comprehensive against Newcastle West the last day, a team that obviously beat them last year. And they have previous obviously winning Munsters, albeit it's a long time ago now. Was it 2015 since they won that last Munster? I'd probably just be about favouring Clonmel going into this.
I'd love to know how much of an input Oisin McConville is having at the moment, because the talk is that he's been doing some stuff with them in recent months. But last year they had a great win over Nemo Rangers. Remember, that was on TV, and they were really good that game. Came out and had a bit of a non-performance against Newcastle West. So they have to guard against that now that they have beaten that same Limerick team, that they come out all guns blazing against a Dingle team that does have quality. Michael Ganey, Paul Ganey, Conor Ganey. Obviously, there's other players in there as well. But yeah, I would side a little bit towards Clonmel. I do feel there's an All-Ireland in them. Whether they can, obviously they'll have to get through Munster firstly, but God, it's some bear pit beyond that when you look at Corofin and obviously all the other teams that are involved as well, without naming them all out. Glen.
Yeah, to be fair now, we thought that last year, and Karen O'Reilly's, who did they give a socks to? They gave socks to Kilmacud in the semi-final in the last year. So, but like, you would say, like, if looking at the provinces, it's the weakest of the 4, you'd have to say. So there's a massive opportunity, and the odds would suggest that. The odds for any of these 4 actually win the All-Ireland are much bigger than most of the teams in the other provinces. But there's a great opportunity for the 4 of them there. I would expect it to be a Clonmel Commercials Castlehaven final, though, particularly with the couple of key men that Rathgormack are missing.
Would you run through a couple of the other fixtures before we finish up?
I surely would, yeah. There's Ulster Intermediate semi-final, so Glenolan against Ballyhaise, and you have St. Patrick's against Leitrim. Ulster Junior final, Arva against Blackhill. You've also got Munster Intermediate Football Championship semi-final, so Rowan, who've come up through the ranks the last couple of years. They're playing against Mungret St. Paul's, another club, obviously, who've come up through the ranks, both football and hurling, the last couple of years. Waterford goalkeeper Billy Nolan was the main man for Rowan in their quarter-final win. You have Milltown Castlemaine against Kilnamatra. So a week after taking down the Cliffords, Milltown Castlemaine are back at it again fairly quickly. And they're coming up against a Kilnamatra side that are managed by John Evans. So John Evans is managing against the Kerry club that he'll know well. And sure, we've had him on the show. He knows the Kerry Club Football Championship and even junior, intermediate, all sorts of teams inside out. So he definitely will have the inside scoop there. And in the Munster Junior Football Championship semi-finals, they have Kilmurray against Nfina Kilmeedy, and you have Listowel Emmets against Killaimer. And then the last one, and I don't know if you have this bit of audio already. Hopefully you do. The Connacht Intermediate Finals, Castlereagh St. Kevin's against Monavea Abbey. And I just wonder if the manager thinks that the Castlereagh St. Kevin's lads are also very cocky, as he did last weekend.
Tom, we were looking forward to Kilmina come to Tuam, and Kilmina stated in the papers there this week they're not afraid to come to Tuam. And just by the way, these are a cocky crowd, and the Mayo people are cocky people, but they haven't bit, I'm going to call them 𝘱𝘂𝘶𝘗𝘗 yet, because we're really ready for them, and we've no fear of Mayo champions whatsoever.
Yeah,
I love that. You tell me, I love it. Talk about fighting talkies, these two guys. I'm coming for you now.
It's brilliant stuff. Look, there's so much coming up this weekend. Make sure you all enjoy it. If you want to get the audio podcast, go to patreon.com/OurGame. Michael will be back again soon.
Cheers, Shano.